Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well on this Monday afternoon, beginning of another week. We're going to do a couple of Rashis from Parshas Vayera, two of them specifically, in the second Aliyah for today. In the second Aliyah, we see more about the encounter between the three men or the three angels and Avram and Sarah. And of course, the news that they're going to have a child comes in the previous Aliyah, and then Sarah's laughter and her denial of the laughter and all of that which ensues. Now, in our Aliyah, we finally seeing the departure of these three men. It says, Vayakum misham ha'anashim. They left that place. They got up from that place. Vayashkifu al pnei Sodom, v'Avram olech imam l'shalcha. And they looked out over the area of Sodom, and Avram escorted them out. So a lot of beautiful things. What is Vayakum misham? Why are they still called ha'anashim? Why is Avram going with them? A lot of interesting pieces of the pasuk. But for now, I'm interested in this word, Vayashkifu. Lahashkif means probably to look over or to gaze over. However, it's used very specifically a couple of times in the Torah and Tanakh. If you take a look at Rashi, he points out kol hashkafa l'ra'a. Every time you see hashkifa, which is not used all that often, it's always to introduce something bad that's about to happen. Just like over here, Hayashkifu looks all innocent. They're looking out over the area of Sodom. No, they're looking out over Sodom because it's about to be destroyed. So it's always l'ra'a. There is one exception to that rule, and that is the hashkifa of Mikra Bikurim, which I think we studied. I can't remember that far back, but I think we looked at that Rashi together. Chutz me'hashkifa mimon kodshecha, the hashkifa of the Mikra Bikurim. Over there, after the farmer takes out all of his produce, and he has the Mikra Bikurim, and then he has the Vidoi Maestros, telling Hashem that he did everything right in terms of taking out all the Meiser in the various years. Then he declares to Hashem, Hashkifa mimon kodshecha min hashamayim uvarech esamcha es Yisrael ve'es ha'adama asher nasata lanu kasher nishbata lavuseinu eretz avas chalav udvash. Hashkifa, look out, Hashem, mimon kodshecha, from your divine abode, your holy abode from the heavens. Uvarech esamcha, you should bless your nation, Israel, and the land that you gave us, that you've promised our forefathers, the land of flowing with milk and honey. So here's another Hashkifa. And this hashkifa is beautiful. It's wonderful. It's hashkifa, God. Pour all of your blessings down upon us and on this earth and on this land. So this is not a hashkifa l'ra. All the other hashkifas in the Torah are l'ra. They introduce something bad that's going to happen, including our sort of paradigmatic case here of Sodom. And here we have a hashkifa in Kisavo, the hashkifa after the Vidui Maestros, which seems to be l'tova, seems to be for the good. And so Rashi explains why that's the case based on the Medrash Rabbah. Shegadol koach matnos aniyim shehofech midas rogez l'rachamim. Because great is the power of gifts to the poor that can even transform the trait of anger into compassion. Beautiful. The hashkifa in Mikra Bikurim over here, in Vidur Maestros over here, is used very specifically to trigger some important understanding and message in our mind. You know that every hashkifa is always l'ra. This time, where you're about to receive all this bracha, the Torah uses hashkifa again to clue you into the power of the maestros which you just gave, specifically the meiser ani, the ties to the poor, which were given over the course of this meiser cycle. You gave money to the poor. That is so powerful that it can transform something negative into something positive. It can transform the hashkifa that we know from everywhere else in the Torah, which is l'ra, to a hashkifa here, l'tova. Not only that, Rashi doesn't spell this out, but this hashkifa is quite chutzpah. It's us saying to Hashem, we did everything right, now it's your turn to pay up. Your turn, God, shower us with blessing. It's a very surprising thing that we say to God. Maybe what the Torah is cluing us into is when we give gifts to the poor, when we help out the poor, the power of that act is so strong that not only does it transform midas rogez l'rachamim, it transforms anger into compassion when it comes to God, but it transforms us into beings who have the capacity to say to God, hey, hashkifa, I did something so incredible, so powerful, so transformative. Not only do I intuit the fact that you're going to change rogez rachamim, but I can demand it of you, Hashem. It's hard to even say those words, but that seems to be what Rashi is saying, seems to be what the Torah is saying over here, which is all, of course, Ashir more in Parshas Kisavo and Maestros and Vidui, but of course related to our word Hashkifa over here, which is the opening to the fact that all Hashkifas in the Torah are L'Ra'a, pointing to the exceptional quality of the Hashkifa in Kisavo. So that's the Hashkifa here and our Rashi. I want to do one more Rashi because I think it's a nice one as well. After these men are leaving and they look over the area of Sodom, Avram's escorting them. Hashem shares with Avram what's going to happen to the people of Sodom. Could I hide it from Avram, that which I'm going to do? After all, Avram's going to be a great nation, etc. And all the nations of the world are going to be blessed through him. He needs to know the events of the world, things that are happening. God spells out again why it is that he picked Avraham to be the Avham Goyim, to be the progenitor of this great nation. Because I know, says God, that he's going to command his children and his household after him to continue this derech Hashem, this path of God, and specifically to do tzedakah u'mishpat. It's an unbelievable pasuk. Much to say about that. The very tip of the iceberg is to say that Hashem doesn't just choose Avram because he's a righteous person, but the most salient, important quality of Avram as a righteous person is that he was able to transmit that to the next generation. You have many wonderful, great, exceptional people, but if their exceptional qualities, so to speak, die with them, and there's no longevity to it, then you can't start a nation from them. You start a nation from a person who has those qualities, but also who can convey them to others, can amass other people who are going to follow these ways and then convey them to the next generation so that it's not short-lived. It's not something that only exists in their lifetime, but for many years ahead. And that's what Hashem saw in Avram, that he would be able to transmit that and pass that forward. And here we are, thousands and thousands of years later, still following in that pathway. Hashem was, of course, right. But the word Yedativ is something that Rashi comments on over here. Ki Yedativ, Lashon Chiba. Yedativ means I know him, from the word Yodea, Ladat. But Rashi says there's something else here that's being conveyed. It's not only I know that he's going to pass this on, but it's Lashon Chiba. I am overjoyed. I'm so in love with him because he's going to pass this on. He brings various examples in Tanakh where Ladat is used not to know, but to love. And then he says something really perceptive. Amnam, ikar kulam eno elo lashon yediyah. In the end of the day, even the examples in the Torah, Tanakh, where ladat connotes love, it's really not so far from the traditional understanding of ladat, which is to know. Because after all, hamechabev es ha'adam, mekarvo etzlo, v'yod'o u'makiro. Because someone who truly feels love for another person, they bring them closer and get to know them more, get to recognize them more, get to understand them more. And therefore, knowing and loving are related. I would add to Rashi that the opposite is also true. That it's not just that love leads to greater and greater yediyah, right? When you love someone, you want to know them more. That's certainly true. But the opposite is true as well. It's not only love leads to knowledge, but knowledge leads to love. The more you know someone, the more you love them. The more you love them, the more you want to know them. It's not a vicious cycle, but a positive cycle, a snowball effect of this process, which keeps going around and around, which is why here, it's not just Yedativ. I know, okay, I know, like a fact on a sheet paper. Yes, Avram passed the test, check. I know he's going to pass this on. He's the progenitor. No, it's that I love him. I love him so much. And this knowledge of what he's capable of only makes me love him more. Beautiful idea for us to think about. Thank you and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, everyone.
Thank you.